right now, Mike. I just got it.
All right, you guys are live.
Yeah, since I just did the update on there, it used to have the participants on the side as like a sidebar, and now it doesn't. It's down in the. It's just a box that pops up right in the middle of the screen.
Yeah, you can. I think you can reset that by making your screen like not using the full screen, but just hitting the like the thing in the upper right corner where it says what does it actually say? Maximize. And then
we'll just leave it alone.
Okay.
Hopefully, this is the last time I have
Fair
to
enough.
use it for a while. All right, everybody's ready. I'll call the meeting to order. We have 5 o'clock today, Monday, June 1st, 2020. Roll call is Selectman Howdy Goodwin.
Here.
Mike Mansalilli.
Here.
Mackenzie Jewett.
Here.
Kevin.
Here.
Myself, Jamie Thurlow. Town Manager Chris Saunders. And Town Clerk Katie Danduran. Adoption of agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to change? Okay. We have approval of minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of May 18th, 20.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from May 18th, 2020. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Howdy.
No, I abstain.
Okay. Mike? That's right. I forgot about that. Mackenzie?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
And myself is yes. And next is approval of warrants. I didn't have the warrant list in my packet, so you must have sent that.
I emailed it out, but I did not have a chance to text you guys, so sorry about that. But it is in your email.
It is? Okay. I'll just pull it up. No one cares. It takes 2 seconds.
Yep.
Okay, we have 3 warrants. We have warrant number 115 for $8,466.09. Warrant 116 for $12,385.70. And warrant 117 for $84,701.83.
I'll make a motion warrants 115 through 117.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve warrants 115 through 117. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Howdy.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Mackenzie. Kevin.
Yes.
Okay. Now, regular business. What's up? Yes. Oh, sorry. Yes. Okay, next on the regular business is possible office reopening. Would you like to give us a summary of what you're thinking, Chris? And then we can all kind of chime in. I've read what you had here outlined on that sheet.
Yeah, basically, you've got in your packet my plan for how to reopen. This was written using the guidelines that were published by for municipal buildings, as well as consultation with the office staff. We've spent the better part of the last 3 or 4 weeks really honing in on this and making sure that it makes sense. There is the question of, do we want the members of the public to be required to wear masks inside, or do we want to just ask them please to wear masks? How do you want to handle that? But just keeping aligned with, where other towns are. Bar Harbor reopened on May 18th. Mount Desert is planning to reopen on June 8th, and then Southwest Harbor is planning to open with with their service window with limited hours. And I haven't been able to see what their plan is for opening up to the public again, but I think it's either now or soon. And so I think us reopening is aligned with what those towns are doing. I'll repeat what I said, is that I want to be clear that I don't think that the risk is necessarily less at this point than it was a couple months ago, but I do think that we understand what the risk is better, are able to have the precautionary measures in place to minimize the risk as best we can. And so that would include having staff wear gloves and masks while they're interacting with the public, limiting the number of people in the office to 3, and then having a plexiglass barrier between the staff and the public in the windows that they're, or at the counters that they're working with them at, as well as some other things like having cleaning routines, sanitizing services 3 times throughout the day, rearranging furniture to accommodate traffic flow and that kind of thing.
Yeah, one thing I think that's, I believe that the governor's requiring everyone going into any business and everything to wear a mask as of Friday. So, I mean, I didn't think it'd be terribly necessary in the office, but I think to be consistent with state law, probably it should be required at this point. I keep kind of forth on that one, but.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think it is state law, I believe now, and I think that we should just say that it's mandatory and hope that 99% of people follow that. I think they will.
I think the question is, how forceful do you want? I mean, I will do my best if someone comes in not wearing a mask to politely ask them, please wear a mask. But if they make a point of refusing, as not going to happen, but is possible, how forceful do you want us to be?
I would ask him to leave. I mean, that's my opinion. I think it's a very reasonable thing to ask someone just to put on a mask, and everyone's trying to do the best they can, through these times, and we don't want to put any of our staff at risk.
I'm very comfortable with doing that. I just don't want to do that without, have that be a surprise, because I'm guessing one of the 5 of it.
I also think that if somebody did have, say, a medical condition where they can't have a mask, we just tell them we'd be willing to accommodate them.
That's
in
reasonable.
some way. It might not be within the office itself. We might have them put something outside for them temporarily, but there's some people that just have discomfort with having that on their face, or they have a medical condition, and I want to make sure that people are, we're able to help those people too.
Like a face shield, I've seen that, Mike, in different places. People have had a clear face shield. That would do, it would help some.
Right.
That they're currently equipped to provide them, but we could try to order one. I don't know if it would be, how soon it would be here, but
I think someone that needs one of those should have it on their own. It's not like they wouldn't know.
Okay.
And I've got no problem also requiring it to come or asking them to leave if they can't do that.
Okay.
Do you think you can get it all together by June 8th? I mean,
yeah, Katie and I we already have a lot of the supplies. And the only thing the big thing that we don't have yet is the plexiglass, but we ordered it we were told it would be delivered in time.
And what are you thinking as far as, so there would be, all the windows would be closed, all the pull downs would be pulled down except for one.
Except for 2, we'd have 2 open. We figured out so a lot of people, when they're working with the code enforcement officer, meet with him in his office, and it's not practical to try to construct a barrier in that office. And so instead we're going to say that the code enforcement officer will work with a customer at one of the counters, but those interactions are often 15-20 minutes or so. And so we only have one available, then that really jams things up. And so we figured we need two.
Maybe put it all the way down on the end, just an idea. That way it's separate from the
Yeah, so
first one.
exactly, the two end ones, and the middle one will be closed.
Yeah.
And still shut downstairs totally. Like we don't need anybody downstairs, right? Shut doors.
Well, that's a discussion for if you guys want to resume your things. Then.
Okay, but there's no reason that like anybody, unless it's a selectmen's meeting or a meeting right now, there's no need has to be down there, right, during the day.
Not open for the public is what you're saying.
That's what I mean.
Like,
Shut it
yes.
down.
It's not out for. It's not out to rent or not to rent, but to use for
Right.
whatever purposes.
Correct. That
There's
is
no
my.
reason anybody needs to be down there.
Correct.
It's just less space that you have to.
Yes. Yeah. And no members of the public will be down there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hesitate because we've talked about socially distanced staff. I might at times work down there so that Katie could use my office or that kind of thing. So there might
That's
be
different.
people down there, but
Okay.
members of the public.
And also, I don't want to micromanage it, but just the plexiglass, I've seen it done really well some spots and not so well in other spots. And I think, I don't know how big a stuff you usually get over the counter TV, but I've seen some of them be down like within 6 inches of the counter. And I think that's good. It's that way you can just slide all your stuff through. Some of them are like, I saw one that's probably 1.5 feet, 2 feet off from the desktop. And I don't really know if that's that helpful, you know.
I think me and Chris, we talked about 2 inches from the counter surface. That'll be the space between. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it'll be suspended from. I don't know if you can picture it, but there's a section of the build of. I think it's. I'm not a building expert to describe it, but there's a section of the building that we can hang it from that doesn't impede the grates from going down, and so when we close, those will still be able to be closed.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
No, sounds good. And you're everybody in the office, as far as you're concerned, Katie's on board. They think it's fine. No one's concerned with it.
Yep. I mean, I guess it'll really be a trial and error. We'll see how things go.
Yep.
Once we are open to the public, but everyone seems on board.
Yeah, and one of the things we should keep in mind is if there is a local spike, or God forbid, if one of our staff members got sick, I think I would very quickly want to respond and take appropriate measures. I would of course do so by after consulting with you, Jamie. But we might react quickly if that happened.
Yeah. No, I think that if anybody ever tested positive, God forbid, but if someone ever did, then you would obviously have to close it down for 2 weeks minimum, I would think. So.
Yeah, and Chris, I was looking at this. I don't know if you need to put stanchions in there to direct people.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're only going to have 3 people in there, I think that might kill.
Yeah.
I think they can find their way around. There's only 3 of them.
Yeah. I think we need some way to feed is, but we can do that with table on the floor.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
All right. No, that sounds good to me, I guess. I think that seems to be time to try it. So. Anybody else have any concerns or anything about it, or?
Since Troy's the only public works employee right now, I guess keeping him separate's not going to be a big deal. I'll be working with Justin occasionally, but there's no issues with that, right, Chris?
Nope.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Happy with June 8th? Yes?
yeah, I mean, I think that if you guys think you can get it together by then, I just didn't want to put extra pressure on you for getting it, but as long as you're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
The only thing that I could see really delaying it is if for some reason, I mean, we've ordered the plexiglass and they've told us it's going to be delivered in time, but if it's not, then it's a big issue.
And who's going to install it? Is it just the crew doing
Yeah,
it? or-
Troy's able to install it. We've game planned it together.
Because if you ever couldn't get it, I mean, you can go to Home Depot or wherever and get,
Well,
if
they've
you
had a
needed it
run.
early.
A lot of the stores have run out of it. That's part of the
Oh,
problem.
have they?
You can always use saran wrap temporarily.
Yeah,
Post-
I don't think
Post
that-
office is doing something similar.
I know, and I will admit that I don't want us to look like how the post office looks.
Yeah, it's not the most professional looking setup I've ever seen.
Mm-mm.
All right. Well, I guess we just need a motion on authorizing Chris to open it up.
Make a motion to authorize the town manager to reopen the town office to the public on June 8th as proposed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize the town manager to reopen the town office to the public on June 8th as proposed. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, Howdy,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Mackenzie,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
and myself is yes. I noticed on there too, Chris, you had on the memo that you would like to end COVID-19 payment and go on to regular salary. Is that?
Yeah, basically
I guess
just
I didn't.
reinstate
Okay,
everybody
well.
to their regular hours.
Okay.
I make a motion to end the payment of COVID-19 admin time for town staff effective June 1st, 2020, previously authorized at the March 2020 select board meeting.
Been moved and seconded to end the payment of COVID-19 admin time for town staff effective June 1st, 2020, previously authorized at the March 20th, 2020 select board meeting. Is there any discussion?
Just clarify again, Chris, why we're using today's date instead of next Monday.
Oh, because I want the staff here for the rest of this week just to get.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
All those in favor? Howdy,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Mackenzie,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
myself is yes. All right. The next thing on the regular business is once again the 2020 town meeting and the FY21 budget. I know we've talked about this many times, and I see that there's some ideas of different towns of what they're proposing to do. Is Bar Harbor still planning to hold the June 30th town meeting, Chris?
As of right now, that's what I hear.
Okay.
It's people have directly asked, how are you going to get around the cap of 50 people? And the assumption is that there will be from the governor between now and then that will resolve that issue.
Mm-hmm.
I said in my memo, I was hoping now, and there hasn't been.
Why couldn't you have a Zoom meeting with us in it and then people just join and we just deal with it the same way we're dealing with it now? That's been done too.
That has not been, there's not been any legislation passed or executive order that has permitted that. And I don't think MMA legal counsel or our legal counsel would say that that is allowed.
Okay. There's other towns doing it that way. That's why I asked.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what legal authority they're doing so under.
We don't have enough time to get it together for June 30th, do we?
No, not with the 30. Well, yeah, no, not with the 30.
Right, like absentee voting and.
Yeah.
Do we have it together for the July primaries?
If you had a special meeting, yes.
And the cap right now at gatherings, I get lost sometimes. Is it
50.
up to 50 right now?
Up to
50
50.
now.
Yep.
and that we're thinking that maybe somewhere in there that's going to change. Hopefully, we don't know. I would like to see us do the town meeting as we can, safely and happily. I mean, I don't want this to go on until, like, I'm not interested in doing this in August like Mount Desert. I mean, if we can get it in before then, I think we need to do this. And find other, you know, if it can't be at the town office, I mean, we could go to the high school. We could do it out. So we got to get something in the works. And again, it's hard to set a date just because everything is still up in the air. Nobody really knows, but you know, that's just my opinion.
I think the best idea, and it seems to be the most realistic, would be to have the town meeting outside. Maybe location doesn't matter, but just an idea at the school, like out on the ball field or wherever. And then, meaning our school, our local school, and have a tent. So, you know, chances of it raining will be 100%. If we don't have a tent, we do have a tent, it won't rain a drop. So if we just had a tent, we could roll the sides up, try to space people out the best we could. I don't know what the laws are going to be at the time. Things have been moving around a lot, but I think you could get quite a bit of distance between people. And how many people are usually at the town meeting, Katie? Do you, like last year, what was it, like 100 or not even?
It depends what we've got on that ballot, if we have anything on those ballot or to be voted on. I've seen anywhere between 50 and 100 since I've been there, so.
I was going to say, I think it usually runs 60 to 70 on average, somewhere in that range.
So if we had, I think it's pretty realistic to say, what, 75 people in a big enough tent?
I mean, you have to accommodate for all of the selectmen, the town attorney, the moderator, myself, Janet. So even though we may not, we're not all voting parties, but you have to think of everybody that's up there representing the town.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is the turnout might be a little bit smaller this year anyway. But again, probably should plan on 75.
Yeah, I mean, I think, what does everybody else think of the idea of outside? And
that'd be a pretty big people, 6 feet apart, 75 people.
Oh, they got those big tents they use for, you know, weddings or whatever. I mean, that's, you could.
To put 75 people 6 feet apart, I mean, that's covering quite an area.
Yeah, it's pretty good square footage.
If they just stay in the car.
What if
every other parking spot? Left blinker, yes. Right blinker, no.
We would have to do a drawing or something. Maybe that's an idea, Chris, just to initiate this would be to draw out what it would look like for 75 people to be sitting in an audience, roughly 6 feet apart.
That's what I was actually just about to do.
Oh, okay.
Parking spots 8 feet apart. If every person was in every other, there you go.
But 2 people in the same household could sit beside each other too, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I've been to some things currently where as long as you, like, we just went to church. So as long as you're in the same family, the same household, you can all be grouped together. And then the next group can be 6 feet apart. So you might narrow that number down.
Yeah.
Right.
If you gave each one 36 square feet, it's 2,700 square feet. That's a pretty sizable tent.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can tell you a 30 by 40 cost me $2,500 a week this winter, and that was winter.
Yeah.
So it gives you any idea.
How much was that, Mike?
It was 2,500, but that's winter rate.
Jeez.
How big was that?
They were using, they said that in a couple months they planned on a lot of them to the state because of COVID-19. They needed so many temporary medical facilities to test people.
How many square feet did you say, Kevin, per person?
36. That's 6 by 6.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
36.
and that's, it would technically be a little less than that, but
I mean, that's not as bad as I thought, I guess. I mean, what, 60 by 100. Trying to think of what we had at my wedding. I think was close to that size, and that wasn't crazy. You know, to have a. It was. I think it was 60 by 100.
well,
That
that's,
was way
that's
more.
6,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So half of that. Yeah.
My quick calculation said I think a 40 foot by 60 foot tent would provide you with enough space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's not outrageous.
No.
I guess what's the difference between the tent and having it downstairs? I'm having a hard time grasping that. What's the?
You don't
It's,
have to be 100 square feet.
put in there.
I mean, you can still limit how many people go. How big is your room downstairs? It's not much.
Probably what, 20 by 30 or something like that. 20 by 40.
Yeah, I'd have to measure it.
800
I think people are going to be more comfortable with the tent because you're sort of outside. And people are more comfortable with the outside than sort of being packed in a meeting room, closed in. So I think outside might get more people, which is kind of a double-edged sword right now. But
And I guess the other question is, do we even need a tent? Can we say, if it rains, here's the rain date, it's the day after? Save ourselves a bunch of money. I mean, we're still basically saying it's going to be X date. If it's raining that day, it's going to be the next day.
In the way you would do that through the technical process of the town meeting is you could, if it was raining, you would have the minimum number. You would have the minimum number of people show up, like 3 people, and call the town meeting to order, and then immediately adjourn it to the.
Correct.
As long as it's legal, I think that's a great idea.
I mean,
Yeah,
'cause
that's fine.
we spend a lot of money. We don't need to on a tent. I think do it that way and get it over with. And
I think
just
those
hope
5 people or 6 people, whoever had to be out there, would get wet, but otherwise it would be okay.
Actually, you know, the library has a tent also. I know they've used it for the pancake breakfast or something they did at the schoolyard. It's smaller than that, but it's still a fairly good sized canopy. You could set that up even, and you know, it might make a difference. But I'm quite certain it's probably 30 by 30 at least.
we also could look into the fire department. You can move all of the trucks out of the fire department. That's a pretty good space.
Yeah.
And you still have a little bit of parking lot department.
Yeah.
I just think I agree with you, Mackenzie, as far as people are going to feel a lot better being outside with the air. I think what you said, Mike, is a good idea. And I never thought of it before because I couldn't imagine it being legal, you know, to have like if it's not today, it's the next day. But as long as it is, then you could set up like in the parking lot where we go in to have our meetings, just close off that parking lot. It's nice and good spot. Have us, you know, with the table up against the building, and then everybody could sit spread out as they wanted in that whole parking lot. Just park down by the town garage or park up front or wherever, and that would keep it close too, so it wouldn't.
put a cone in every other parking spot and let them just take the ones without the cone.
Yeah.
The parking, there's enough spots there for everybody. It should be.
Now, what will we do? What about having a speaker or something so that people can hear? Because I mean, the road traffic and everything outside is going to be a lot louder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have
I think
a speaker.
I think the other concern is, you know, no matter how we do it, if there's still a 50-person cap on gatherings, we'll have to postpone anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I can't imagine we hit 50 and say, no, you can't go to the meeting. I don't think that would be legal. And the idea of trying to broadcast it to another location, to me, that's got so much potential for all kinds of problems.
Yeah. For the rain date thing, it's very hard. It would be very hard to put in the public notice warrant or whatever about the rain date plan, because we would just have one date on there and we would all know, raining, we're just going to postpone to the next day. But that's not what you don't put that on the warrant,
Mhm.
So just having folks be aware of that is challenging.
And I think that I agree. I mean, we might not be able to have a gathering of more than 50 people then, but I think what you're after, Chris, is just for us to start throwing out ideas and trying to get something together. So if we can, then this is kind of this is the direction we'd like to go, and that way we have a half a clue of what we're doing.
Yeah, all along my recommendation all along has been to let the state rules guide what we're allowed, what we do, and that's still sort of my recommendation, but I also recognize that, we are all feeling that to have something planned, and so planning, like putting ourselves in the position of like Bar Harbor being something that technically isn't allowed, and just hoping that the rules change between now and then. I mean, that's an option, but it just feels a bit hasty.
Yeah, with all that being said, I agree with Mackenzie too. I think it would be good to do it as soon as we can, whatever that means.
When were you talking before, Chris, when we said somewheres in the end of July? What was the reasoning why we couldn't go into August, or why we?
Well, it's just tax commitment has historically been the second or third week of July, and so the longer we delay that, then you push back tax collection that much farther, and we would probably be okay, but I just it feels risky.
But I guess what I'm thinking is, I think that it seems to be a month by month thing where maybe by August 1st, things might be more relaxed than they will be in July. So if we aim towards the very 1st of August, it might be a little bit more realistic. I don't know what anybody else thinks of that. I'm not trying to delay. I don't know how realistic it's going to be for the middle of July.
Can we make it to August? Are you comfortable making it to August?
I think we would be likely okay.
Okay.
You don't sound sure, Chris.
No.
Well, it's just there's a lot of uncertainty as to, if people pay their tax bills right when they get them, then as opposed to waiting until the very end, then we'd be more okay. And I think we would be okay if we did tax commission second week of August. I don't think that delaying it that far would result in us having, bounced checks. But I get very anxious when we think about later than that.
Yeah. Well, I said we just bring this up again at the next meeting. Maybe things have changed by then, and we can do it sooner than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only chat I put it here. Well, I put it here because that's the last time we talked about it. You wanted to postpone it until this meeting, and then the second reason is that if you do want to have the election, state election, then you have to approve the full warrant 30 days before that state election on July 14th. So you would have to have a special meeting. So I didn't want you to miss that deadline. But I tend to agree with what you just said, Howdy, that it feels premature to try to schedule something, and then have, the word go out, okay, Tremont scheduled it for this date, and then suddenly that date, we're approaching that date, and the rules don't allow for gatherings, and we don't, my worst nightmare is state police showing up and breaking up a town meeting because it's violating the governor's order. I mean, that seems like a bad sscenario.
I think that's a pretty low risk scenario.
Wait for bad press, though.
Yeah. No, that's the only reason why I mentioned August, because I think was it in the governor's plans to have? Wasn't it groups over 50 for August?
I think that's through the end of August is when the 50 cap is currently going.
Through the end of August.
Yep.
Okay.
And then September 1st, it's unclear what the rule will be on September 1st. It's just not that stage 4, I think, begins the beginning of September. But okay. I know there's no specifics about stage 4 yet.
And that's getting modified regularly.
Exactly.
So it's hard to tell.
Yeah. Now I'm just looking at the calendar just to see when the first week, Monday or Tuesday is the 3rd and 4th of August. I know I'm not trying to just mean that's what there is for the first comes on a Saturday. So.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good to have some kind of an approximate target date, a range anyway. Because again, I think it's something we really ought to do as soon as we can. I would think the middle of July would be ideal, but I understand all the concerns and reason not to.
Mm-hmm.
And I would really rather not put it off, into August for sure. I'd say late July or very early August if we could do it. Or not ideal, but I think it would work.
I'd have to agree with Kevin on that as well.
Me too.
Yep.
Me too. I think in July the weather's have to be a lot better than it is now anyhow. So
if we say just our rough idea for right now is say July 15th through what did I just say August 4th, that Tuesday, that would give us a couple week range there that we're trying to shoot for.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Yeah. So keeping in mind your 30, whatever date you have to officially sign the warrant at least 30 days before then. So July 15th, 30 days is June 15th. And so you could sign the warrant at your next meeting on June 15th. But if you don't sign at that meeting and you don't have another meeting before your next regularly scheduled 6th, then your window becomes August 6th or August 5th would be the earliest. So basically either you sign it on June 15th meeting or you don't have a town meeting at all.
Yeah, we could do I was just looking at the calendar. We could do the 29th of June too.
Yeah, you could have a meeting that and schedule it for June 20 or July 29th.
Yeah.
Or later, and that would be fine.
Yep.
I'm fine waiting till the 15th and see if anything's changed or if there's new recommendations or whatever. And
yeah, I feel like I keep telling us about to do something because that's what I'm being told, but then it keeps not happening. So
I'm sure she's got a lot on her plate.
Yeah.
I'd be fine with that. If we needed to have a special meeting to get it in there, I don't have an issue with that either.
Yeah. I will also amend something I've read on my memo out. I did get word. I saw in an email from the superintendent that if you did want to have your town meeting at the high school and you wanted to have simulcast, like from one room of 50 people to another room of 50 people, that is possible.
I would really rather not do that.
I tend to agree with you. Close that.
All right. So if we take no action on this, we basically put together a bunch of ideas so we know which direction we're going, but no actual action, so you won't need a motion off that.
Correct. Follow up because I've got people who are curious with the school tomorrow, and just let them know that time frame that you just laid out. You're hoping for somewhere between July 15th and August. What was it? 5th? You said
4th was this. Okay. I think on Tuesday. All right. Is everybody good with that?
Works for me.
Works for me.
Yep.
All right. We will move on to the next item on the agenda, vehicle registrations. Would you like to explain this to us, Chris?
Yeah, sure. We had a series of executive orders that were somewhat confusing for towns to follow, but I'm trying my best to explain it. On May 12th, there was an executive order that ended the suspension of vehicle registration requirements. So basically saying you now need to get your vehicle registered, and it set a deadline of June 12th. And then she amended that executive order on May 26th and said, actually, you now have to get it registered within 30 days of the end of the state of emergency. So basically no clear deadline until we know when the state of emergency is going to end, unless the local municipal officers want to set an earlier deadline. And I personally recommend an earlier deadline or setting a deadline of June 30th, just because that's the last day and it helps our bookkeeping. I don't think it actually will make a huge difference one way or the other as far as the public is concerned, because I'm informed by law enforcement they're not, specifically pulling people over for expired registrations. If they've pulled you over for something else, then they might have a discussion about that, but that they're not targeting that by itself. And our office does not obviously do enforcement. It's not a huge difference one way or the other, but in light of the fact that in April our registration from an average of about 40,000 over the last few Aprils to 5,000, I think we should be very mindful of doing our best to keep that revenue stream active.
If we go against the date the state said, who's even going to know?
Well, I am gonna. The state.
It's going to be very effective.
No, but the state. Well, the executive order, the copy that I put in your packet, says that reasonable notice to the public of the start date of the municipal's ability to collect tax. So I would post something at the post offices that you guys did set the deadline of June 30th.
Confusing. So even if we set a June 30th deadline, it's still up to the police to pull them over and win, right?
But that's always true, right?
Right. So us setting the deadline looks good for us because we're encouraged to come in, but if the police aren't, saying, oh, look, you need to go, then okay.
Kind of a futile gesture.
Right.
I think it just sends the message that you need to register your vehicle, and we're able. Really, that's what it. When we were completely closed, or as we've been completely closed, we've still been able to do it. We have been doing it for many people because we've been using the Dropbox system, and we have rapid renewal, and that's possible. I think that being open makes it no different from how we were before, and so I don't see why anyone should not be able to register their vehicle.
Do you think people caught on to rapid renewal during this whole thing? Better or?
Yeah. I haven't yet had a chance to really dig into the numbers as to, how many did it via rapid renewal that in April and May versus previous months. But I know that was our first, did you know you can do this online? You don't have to go through this sort of tedious Dropbox system.
Yeah, that's good.
I understand your concerns, Chris, and hopefully it would work, but I tend to really hate to pass something with no teeth in it. And that's kind of what it feels like. And we're telling them to do, we're being more, I guess, towards it than the state is. And I'm a little uncomfortable with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and if the police aren't going to enforce it anyhow, so it's really no sense.
I know it's hard if it's the only thing I see with it, if it's a town by town thing, if that's really for people to, if Southwest doesn't do the same thing, or if they do, then it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
I understand why you're doing it though. You're trying to keep the revenue rolling, trying to keep I mean, business as usual as much as we possibly can.
But do you think once people get the hang of now we're open, I can go in and register my car, maybe that will persuade them? And maybe their excuse, it's a bad excuse, but maybe their excuse was, oh, they were closed and I couldn't go in. And other ways to do it. But maybe now they'll be like, oh, the door's open, I should probably crawl in there and register my car now.
I hope
Well,
so.
what I was thinking, why not just post notices on all the regular places that the town offices now will come in and do your registrations in person?
Would be.
And to me, I think that'd be a really good way to handle that.
Yeah, could do that.
Yeah, I agree with Kevin.
Yeah, me too.
I think that's a real good start, and then see how it works too. See if it. So, do you want a motion on that, Chris, to that effect, or no?
No, I can post that. Just motion.
All right. Does anybody have anything else on that, or are we good?
Go on.
Yeah, we will move on to the next regular business, which is surplus property sale. You have a few small items to be sold or that you found, Chris.
Yep, the public cleaning out the garage they were looking at did an inventory of all of the cutting edges that we have and determined that there were a good number that don't fit any plows that we have, and so, but they're perfectly good cutting edges, and so might as well see if we can get any money for them. So the exact dimensions, I've got 10 4 inches long, 2 that are 55 inches long with sort of an angled cut at the end, and 16 that are 60 inches long. And then the other item that I included in the memo was bookshelves that have been replaced as part of the library construction project. Good condition, and there's 8 of them. They're 7 feet tall, 3 feet wide, and 1 foot deep.
Just a quick, Chris, do you think it's worth hanging on to those F650 plow cutting edges in the thought that, if we replace a truck, we may replace it with something similar and be able to use those?
You certainly could. I'd have no objection to that.
I'm sure
It depends on what they fit,
Right, but I guess if I had something like that in my shop, I'd be more inclined to hold on to it because it is expensive and the price of that stuff only goes up. It doesn't go bad. We decide to get rid of it in 2 years, it's not gonna.
Yep.
Yeah, the only thing I can think is the odds of getting the same plow on it's not the truck, it's the plow.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
The odds of getting the same plow again is going to be slim to none. I mean, nothing seems to bolt on to the same as what it did, let alone 10 years ago. I know if you could drill it or something, it would be great, but I know that's hardened steel, so that's not happening.
I can tell you my boss ones haven't changed. They're the same. They're the same they were 10 years ago. I got the oldest plow I got on my fleet takes the same cutting edge that my new ones do. Brand new one that I just got this year. Yeah. But I just, some of that stuff is common. I get some of it isn't, but I don't care, I guess, either way. But I just hate to see us sell something and then need it like something like that.
Do you know what was on that, or I didn't know if anybody remembered how they?
I saw that truck only had a straight blade Fisher on it. I thought.
Yeah.
Those don't.
There's different lengths. It must have been different plows that they had them for.
All I can tell you is they've been in there for a very long time.
I would tend to put them up for sale. If you don't get any good offers, then you keep them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we can accept or reject the bids anyhow. So.
Yep. And you you also have the option of selling it as scrap steel up and out, but it sounds like it might be worth more than that, so we won't do that.
Well, I'll take them over and throw them on my pile.
Yeah, but you won't pay us for them.
If it's a Fisher, you might as well, because them things aren't worth anything.
Oh, come on, Mike.
As the best offer, you know, we in the past when we've done surplus property sales, it hasn't actually come back to you. I've just, you know, taken the highest bidder. But if you minimum price of, you know, whatever you think would be the reasonable price, you can also do that.
A set of those, what, Howdy? How much of them? About $600, $800? So if we even took half of that,
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what they are. I could stop in tomorrow and take a look at them and just see what, tell what they fit, and
You could also
Yeah.
not set a minimum price, but then, you know, we have the understanding that there, you know, there is some price, and then we'll just see what comes back. Because what I don't know is how I should advertise them. As do you have to buy all of them, buy one?
I'd do it all if you're gonna do it.
Yeah, don't do the individual pieces.
Okay.
and no one's gonna bid on them fit anyhow, probably, so.
No, they're gonna need to know what they fit, or else no, they're gonna buy it for scrap. That's
Yeah.
all it's gonna be, because there's no. No, that sounds good to me. I'm fine with that.
Selling them as a lot.
Yeah, sell those as a lot, and then sell the bookcases as a lot as well, right?
I'll make a motion to authorize the town manager to sell as surplus property the plow steels as a lot as specified and library bookcases as a lot as specified.
Second,
Been moved and seconded to authorize the town manager to sell as surplus property plow steel as a lot as specified and library bookcases as a lot as specified. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Mackenzie,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
myself is yes. All right, next thing on the agenda is administrative officials appointment. We have a list of all of our local officials.
I would honestly say I'm a little uncomfortable voting on this without actually seeing the current opposed to the updated right in front of me. I have no interest in voting on something that I haven't had a chance to thoroughly review.
You mean just the who is doing the job, Mike? Or?
I've got one sheet right here from in my packet, and it's only showing one set of numbers in this column. I don't have anything to compare this to. I have no idea what the changes are, and I think I want some time to review it with both sets in front of me, the current and the existing. I mean, the current and the model.
That's the next thing on the agenda. This
Yeah,
is
we're not even on that one.
Oh,
no,
sorry.
the officials appointment, which is just a list of who is doing what.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't hear you. No, I'm fine with that one.
Do you need us to list off each person and or just the motion the way you've got it?
The motion, the way I have it.
Okay, I'll make a motion to appoint Christopher Saunders as town manager, treasurer, general assistant administrator, and road commissioner, and to confirm his appointment of the following town officials.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to appoint Christopher Saunders as town manager, treasurer, general assistant administrator, road commissioner, and to confirm his of the following town officials. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, Howdy.
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Mackenzie,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
and myself is yes. The next thing was the salary ranges, and that's what you were referring to, Mike.
Yeah, I'd like to really see both of them in front of me. I don't want to make it a split-second decision tonight without being able to properly review it. It'd be like if we had bids for something and we didn't have them in front of us. I have no interest in voting on this.
They're all the same as last time, right?
They have cost of living adjustments and minor step increases.
Still think that that's I don't think this is the right way to go about it. I think we should in front of us. I don't think I'm shooting in the dark. I don't know what these changes are.
Didn't we already approve schedule a long time ago?
You approved last year's, version. This is just the updated version.
What's the cost of living increase, Chris?
6%.
Yeah. And the steps are on.
There's one step increase, and this is what you approved in your draft FY21 budget. Well, these are the exact same numbers that you approved in the draft FY21 budget that you've already approved. I'm sorry?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, exactly. You just haven't done this order. There's only one step increase. I'm pulling it up. That was for the Harbor Masters, a 58 cents step per hour step increase in addition to the 1.6%, and that was he hit the 5 pens.
Okay. I'm fine with this. The only question I've got is, this isn't going to affect anything if we end on budget. I mean, if we don't,
well,
have a town meeting that approves the new budget.
So I now have 2 draft budgets. I've got the one that you, and then I have one if there's no town meeting and we have to use the same budget numbers as last year. And the way to have those budget numbers is there's just cost centers like administration, public works, recreation, etc. And so, for example, Recreation Cost Center, your FY21 budget actually was a lot less than the FY20 budget just in that one. And so if we had to revert to last year's, they go up significantly. And so you could very easily afford the cost of living adjustments that are in here, even if you had to use last year's.
Okay, that's what I want. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I'm fine approving this.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
If I saw anything out of whack, then I would have asked for last year's copy when I get the packet, I guess.
Well, I'll make a motion to adopt order setting salary ranges for municipal employees and officials.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt and sign the order salary ranges for municipal employees and officials. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, Howdy.
Yes.
Mike.
No.
Mackenzie.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Myself is yes. All right. Next thing is the town manager's report.
All right, let me pull that up here. All right, so major emphasis over the last 2 weeks, drafting that reopening plan, which we discussed tonight. In the Down East COVID-19 task force meetings, and one of the outcomes or one of the projects that we've been working with in there is that MDI Hospital has 1,000 non-medical but high quality masks that they're working on distributing to the larger community. And so hopefully Tremont, we should be getting a good number of those, and figuring out exactly what we're going to do with them is sort of the next step. But that should be something that we'll be discussing in the future at some point. And I've been working on the follow-up items from our Bureau of Labor site visit, drafting a new lockout tagout procedure and a hazard assessment for personal protective equipment. Those are both going very well. We should be all set for that very soon. And then working on the COVID-19 FEMA grant application for reimbursement for some of the costs that we've had related to COVID-19. Some minor projects. I have been supervising our public works crew of 1. I've been discussing the lobster boat races. It's not yet determined when this year, but we're planning as if they are until we until the Lobster Boat Racing Association tells us otherwise. And that should be, if they are moving forward, that'll be an item on next meeting agenda to give your blessing or not give your blessing to that. I've been school officials about town meeting. I've been having emails with Bob Pollard about delivery of the backhoe. That should be, the backhoe was already delivered to Beauregard. Now they're just waiting on all the attachments. And Bob today just said it would be another week or two until those come in. I've participated in a Hancock County Planning Commissioners meeting. I gathered all the info for the surplus property sale. I received some materials from Maine Coast Heritage Trust to put a kiosk at the Fish Ladder about alewives. I don't actually have the information yet, but when I do get it, we'll be putting that kiosk out there. So you might, when you're driving by at some point. Had several calls with MDOT staff. They have told me that they are going to be replacing the culvert, the entrance culvert Hodgdon Road, that it's at the top of their list for this summer. So hopefully it will happen. We had our annual fire extinguisher inspection. I'm working with the engineer to finalize the wharf project, and just today I got word that our first request for reimbursement from the state has been approved, and so we should be getting a deposit of $6,000, which is welcome payment. Working with the engineer to finalize the survey work at head of the Harbor Cemetery, and our volunteers placed cemetery flags for Memorial Day, and special thanks to Sherman Stanley and all those who helped him out. They were it's a really great service that they do. Attended the monthly League of Towns meeting. I contacted the state regarding the salt bids that we are participating, or we may participate in, but what those bid prices were. I've been preparing the reappointments of committee members, which will be on your agenda next meeting. Meeting for a grant application that you supported for coastal hazard mapping. This was through the Gulf of Maine Research Institute, and we unfortunately did not receive the grant. GMRI is now pivoting to the Maine Coastal Program for a similar project, but just focused on MDI and not the larger area that they had originally applied for. So if they do apply for that smaller grants, I will bring it back to you to see whether the town of Fremont will sign a letter of support like you did the last time. Preparing for the gym floor work. It's tentatively scheduled to start on July 6th. The library building project is continuing to chug along, and I am planning to do a walkthrough on Thursday. The Tremont Bridge progress has come along nicely. They are hoping to be completely finished within the next few weeks. I asked just today whether or not they will be replacing that crosswalk sign as part, and they are looking into it. And I contacted MDOT about prohibiting parking along Harbor. I spoke with the guy who handles this today. He said he was going to work on it in the next couple weeks and get back to me. For it taking so long. Office staff doing a lot of vehicle and boat registrations, preparing for the July 14th state election, processing payroll and accounts payable, and helping, and they've all helped and had input into the draft reopening plan. Public Works projects, patched the Kellytown culvert, mowing cemeteries, taking the plows and wings off the big trucks. The dirt roads were graded, and Justin put down calcium chloride. Moved the radar sign to Flatiron Road. Ordering the plexiglass for the barriers at the town office. They put out the no motorized vehicle sign at Back Beach. They cleared a clogged culvert on Cape Road and helped, Norm Clausen removed a beaver that was creating a potential flooding hazard on Cape Road. And our harbor master, he did have a week vacation. We also received a permit to partially remove the beaver dam that is upstream of the fish ladder, and Justin will be working over the next few days to do that work. Justin helped out in paving the Kellytown culvert. He hauled out the 20 by 24 float from the south end of the wharf, and it's drying out near the bus garage. He cleaned up the harbor master's office. He did some diving on some transient moorings, lots of phone calls about moorings and permits, and he did some maintenance on the hydraulic motor at the dock. Some priorities over the next few weeks. Now planning and getting ready to reopen. I'll be responding to the Bureau of Labor with our follow-up items and working with the fire department on their list. I'll be participating in a walkthrough of the library project. I'll be doing a site visit at Sealco Fish Ladder to discuss the next steps. The nature-like fish passage design is almost done. And then I'll be working with MDOT for reimbursement of their share of the wharf project.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Yep.
Chris, I propose date for the lobster boat race.
Ooh, let me pull up my calendar.
29th, I think, or something like that, right around there.
Yeah, so it's later than.
Yeah.
Okay.
The 28th.
28th. Okay. And our COVID meeting.
Yeah.
Are they discussing anything about, the flood of people that are going to hit us soon and quarantining and all that? Is there any kind of plan on that?
Yeah, there's two simultaneous projects that this group is really honed in on, and so one of them is what I was describing. The hospital has already received this first shipment of 10,000 masks, and they've already put out another one. And the plan is to go through the towns and the chambers of commerce to distribute those to the local businesses. So I don't yet know exactly how that's going to work in Tremont. Whether the businesses have to pay for those masks or whether the hospital is just at cost and just wants to get them out. So that's part of the discussion that's still ongoing. But then the other big project that we're working on is this proposal to the governor pilot project where we basically select 100 front-facing employees, like wait staff at restaurant, frontline hospitality industry people who will be tested, who will get asymptomatic testing every 2 weeks this summer. And the idea is that if we start to detect a spike of positive tests in that group, then that is an early indicator that we need to really ramp things back and slow down. It's certainly much better to do it that way, wait for people to show up in the ICU, which is a very late indicator that we're having a spike. So we're hoping to flesh out that plan to the governor and see if the governor, as a result, will pull back the requirement of the 14-day quarantine for out-of-state in. That's sort of the idea behind it. And the final plan has not been completed yet, and it's unclear, if it will be accepted by the governor's office, but it's something that has been identified as a priority.
Sounds like a viable option.
Yeah. Funding is a big question there, of course.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Chris.
All right. Suggestions for the next meeting. I was going to bring up how comfortable everyone would be with getting back to meeting at the town office. I thought of a couple, talked to Chris about it for a minute earlier this week, and possibly if everybody was on board with it, meeting at the town office at first and not letting the public in maybe for the first meeting or two, just to see how it works. And what would you do, Chris? Set up a Zoom meeting? Is that what you were?
Yeah, we could do that, via Zoom, and if the Zoom meeting could, just be on my computer in front of me, and then if folks wanted to participate, I could share, what they were saying, or I can, turn up the volume on my computer and maybe you'd be able to hear them.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how everybody feels about meeting in person again.
I think that if we are going to open the office up and expect the office staff to show up to work and be with the public, then there's no reason why the five of us can't show up at a real meeting. But
I agree.
So do I.
we can distance and take proper precautions and stuff like that, but.
And
a rust boundary has been issued for your location.
Sorry, this is my phone.
Oh.
Sorry.
And you would want the meeting to be what Jamie and I were just describing, or would you?
Whatever works, I guess. I mean, however you can make it work. I mean, we don't get a huge crowd anyways. So I think, with a small amount of people that do actually show up to the meetings, we can properly everybody. I mean, if you get a crowd of 50, then we're in trouble. But I mean,
seems unlikely.
Right. I mean, normally we have maybe 4 or 5 or 6 people in the audience, maybe.
Well, that sounds like a really good idea, actually. Why not just put a cap on it? Say it's going to be broadcast over Zoom, but, we have, room for 8 or 10 people or something like that, because you could easily put that many people that come part in there.
Mm-hmm.
Say maybe possibly 10 people or something like that.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. And then if we do let the public in, we should make it mandatory. Any of the public has to wear a mask. The same restrictions as what you had listed for the office. My only fear why I was thinking of Zoom for the first of it is just, I know it's probably highly unlikely, but what if 15 people showed up? Then even 15 people, I don't think we could spread everyone out and be. Remember the one meeting that we had at the end of, I think, our last meeting? There were more people at that than there were at prior meetings to that. So just our luck, we'd end up with 15 people there, not enough room to house them. But that idea of having it Zoom or and enough seats for say 8 people or whatever, that's legal, then I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, my only other thought on that is I would think probably we should be wearing masks also, and it does make it a little more difficult to be heard. So I mean that's the only objection I could see to that. But I think we could work around that. Speak a little more distinctly or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how that will work, trying to speak loudly with a mask, but we'll figure it out. Yeah. Okay, so is everybody on board with having a normal meeting again, or semi-normal meeting, I should say?
I am.
Meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to confirm the date of the next meeting for Monday, June 15th, 2020 at 5 p.m. at the Tremont Town Office.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to confirm the date for Monday, June 15th, 2020 at 5 p.m. at the town office. The only thing I was thinking, should we put a Zoom number in there, Chris, so that way, if we do have the Zoom option, do you need that in your motion, or is it okay not to?
I don't think you have to. I'll just make the Zoom. I have to figure out how that's going to work, but I'll figure it out, and I don't think it needs to be in the motion.
Okay.
Yeah, and the only other thing too, are you going to be able to televise it over the link, or do we all need to show up with a laptop?
That's to figure out. I don't think you need to show up with a laptop, but if you needed something, you all, I mean, am I right to assume you all that you could use, just like Howdy's doing right now?
I mean, I could bring out my laptop too, if that would help, just so that for
mine just as easily as I can use my phone. So
yeah.
I mean, it's fine with me. We can.
I don't think you'll have to, but if as I'm figuring it out, realize that that's helpful, then sure, it might be helpful.
I don't mind bringing it for the first meeting, and then if we have to use it, good. If we don't, then that's fine. All right. All those in favor? Howdy.
Yes.
Mike.
yes.
Mackenzie.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Myself is yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn has been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Howdy.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Mackenzie.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Myself is yes. All right. Well, I guess this is hopefully the last meeting that we have to have on here. So see you guys in person in a couple weeks.
Hey, bye.
See ya.